Welcome back to Nurse Franny. This is Francisco here. We're going to keep talking about joints. Now we're going to go over range of motion, or ROM. So your range of motion is the amount of mobility in a joint. Okay? Your range of motion is the amount of mobility in a joint. We're gonna go over what a goniometer. Well, we already know. This is so easy. Goniometer. It measures range of motion. It's a tool. What determines the range of motion? So question mark. Determine range of motion. What determines is the structure, okay, of the actual articulation and the actual action of the muscles and tendons. So actions of muscle and tendons. So everything. Which two joints are multi-axial? So multi-axial joints, they move on different planes or on different axes. So it can move on the sagittal plane or on the coronal or temporal or the transverse. It's just think about shoulder movement, think about your hips, think about your legs. And here they are, like your glenohumeral and your coxal joint. Your coxal joint. You also should be wary of vocabulary of movements. So vocab of range of motion or movement. So you should know, let me just go back, what flexion is. Now let's just do it. So flexion. With flexion, you decrease the joint angle. Okay? Decrease joint angle. To see this, okay, so if this, let's try to draw someone in anatomical position over here. So this person is in anatomical position. The hands are laid out, right? They're supinated. He's facing you. If I were to flex this joint that I'm circling in red, my person will now look like this. Hold on. Have your knees, have your feet. Here's your glenohumeral. Here's one hand. So the person, and I'm going to draw this angle here. This is 170 degrees. And if we were to flex and decrease the joint angle, what I colored in red is the joint that I'm looking at. And I'm going to flex. So the joint angle should be smaller. So it goes right here. Here's that joint. So now the angle in blue is a measly 46. 45, what the hell? Nope, lying. It's like 30 degrees. Horrible 30 degrees. Anyway, you kind of get the gist. 30. All right. So that's the same thing happens with the, let's see, with the knee. If I were to flex this knee over here, I would have to erase this and reconnect here, and we're gonna flex it. It's gonna go like this, boop, because the angle was reduced. The angle is now like 40 degrees. It was flexed. Now extension straightens the joint. So when we're going to perform an extension, we're actually looking at a straightening of the joint. So if this is your torso, this is your head, and it's already flexed, and this is that elbow right there, and we're looking at this angle, and we're looking at 35. If we're gonna flex, we're gonna look at the same torso, the same head, but it went back down. Okay? So you went ahead, I'm sorry, it was flexed here, and now here we extended it. Okay? So that's that. Hyperextension. Those people that say that they're double jointed, they're not really double jointed. They just have a deeper olecranon fossa or a smaller olecranon that allows their elbows to hyperextend. So we know what extension is, but what happens if we overdo it? There's a girl in our class that is able to long arms. She's able to hyperextend the elbow. So the elbow, and I'm going to give her some curly hair here. She usually has curly hair. Her elbow went from a normal 170 degrees in anatomical position or 0 position to this type of measurement. And this angle now is like 190, right? It's actually going back, it's bending backwards. And she's able to do this because her olecranon fossa, where the elbow is supposed to have a limit, there's a deeper fossa where that elbow, when it closes, it actually keeps going in. That's actually quite cool to see in person. So that's that. That's hyperextension. Circumduction is another term that you want to know. It's the combination of movements, right? Circumduction. If you've ever been in a pool underwater and you want to make a whirlpool with your arm, and you keep your joint, you keep your shoulder relatively in one position, but then the proximal end of that appendage, right, where your tips of your fingers are, your elbows straight, tips of fingers are straight, you're kind of making this whirlpool motion. That's circumduction. You want to learn that's pretty easy, protraction and retraction. So protraction and retraction. If you think of, what's this guy's name? Iron Man. If Iron Man is standing right here, and he wants to, so this person's seeing that way, and he has his arms that way, right? He's trying to stop some evil bad guy. Has his arms that way. If he's able to use his shoulders to actually further project his arms forward that way, that's called protraction. And then when you bring them back, it's called retraction. We should know what abduction and adduction and hyperadduction is. So let's see, abduction and adduction. And of course, hyperadduction. So this one, very easy. So for this one, we have a person who is making snow angels. So we have a person who is trying to make some, oops. This person is actually trying, sorry about that, some snow angels. If this person's arms go up, and in result we have someone doing this, all right, it's right here now. So 1, anatomical position. 2, the hands are actually going up, the arms are going up. That's called abduction. Adduction is when they go back down, and hyperadduction is when they keep going past the anatomical position, crossing the sagittal line, and pretty much in a negative motion. Elevation and depression. So elevation and depression. We have something very intuitive. Think about your very typical shrug when you say, I don't know, or I don't care. When your shoulders go up, that's elevation. When your shoulders go down, that's depression. But remember, it's not just your shoulders, it could be your mandible. When you're chewing and you chew up, right, because your mandible is what moves. When your mandible goes up, and this is your mandible, and then you have your maxilla here. If it goes up, that's elevation. This is what's going up. If it goes down, that's depression. Protraction is this way, retraction is that way. Now let's look at, let's look at inversion and eversion. So inversion and eversion. This actually happens with, you can do this with your feet. Let me see if I can draw this nicely. So if this is your thigh, this is your knee, and you're looking at a foot head on to anatomical position, so this is your, let's just say, well, this has to be the the left leg, because I already drew the fibula over there. Oh no, hold on. Yeah, that's your fibula. So this green right here is your fib. That means I have to draw the other one over here. Whatever. Anyway, if your feet, and I'm going to put this in blue, I think that if they go in, it's inversion, and out in red, it's eversion. But I'm going to double check. It's actually kind of tricky. Oh, never mind. Oh, yeah. So eversion out. All right. So eversion is when the angle, if this is anatomical position. So if this angle right here decreases, that means that the side of the sole of the foot actually goes up. That's eversion. But then if it goes inward, that's called inversion. Oh, that's easy to remember. Inside, inversion, sorry. Now let's look at something a lot better. Special movements of the foot. We have dorsal and plantar flexion. Dorsiflexion, plantar flexion. The easy way to remember plantar flexion is you plant your toes in the sand to see if it's hot, or in the water to see if it's cold. Plantar flexion, your toes are pointing down. You are standing on your tiptoes. Dorsiflexion, your feet, are actually angled up. That's dorsiflexion. And if this helps, this is plantar flexion. Toes down. Okay. That's that. Now we have to also know some other terms, like what bioavailable calcium is, which ligament does not hold bone to bone, normal atmospheric pressure. We need to talk about the TMJ syndrome, but that's going to be on a different video, so stay tuned.